Hi. Hi, this is Allison Backus-Troy. This is The Shared World. This is my third video in this series. This will be a shorter one. I always say that with these videos end up being like 20 minutes long, but this really will be shorter because the purpose of this video today is to simply offer a poem. I've been sketching out plans for what I want these next videos to look like and what things I want to cover, and I was hoping to give you another video on Michael Levinson and his book about humanities and everyday life. I'm planning on giving another video about my husband and I are going to the Houston Shakespeare Festival tonight. We're gonna go see Julius Caesar in Herman Park. It's gonna be outside and I'm really excited. And then I woke up this morning after hearing about El Paso yesterday, which, I live here in Texas and El Paso is not close to me, but those shootings are always close to you. And then you wake up and you hear about another shooting. And, it's so hard to know what to say. It's so hard to know how to respond as an individual person to these things. It's terrible that I have to say these things, that this is the common wound of like our public life in my lifetime is this mass public violence. It just erupts out of nowhere. And it's very true that people have always been facing violence in this way. It's what people encountered routinely in 1500 years ago, 500 years ago. Life has always had this violent edge to it. But I woke up this morning and I heard about this, and the first thing I thought of was this poem by Maggie Smith called Good Bones, which a lot of you will recognize. And the reason I thought about this poem, and I thought about it for this channel, is that, obviously this is not a channel about my personal politics. It's not a channel about well, this is what I think about this issue and that issue and that issue, because that's not what politics are. Politics are inherently personal because they are about how power is governed and offered to maintain a just society, a place where people can feel safe, a place where people can live and flourish. And this has been one of the ongoing questions of the humanities since Aristotle. What does it mean to live virtuously, and what does it mean to live virtuously not just for myself but for those in the polis, those in the city state, those who are in positions of power and those who are not in positions of power. And it's increasingly becoming evident, as there have been 250 different shootings in the United States just this past year, that this violence and the eruption of it in these public but common places is just such an illness, and that it's incredibly hard for the singular person to address it. And oftentimes I think people think that, if you get political in your approach to literature or the arts, whatever, what you're doing is that you're espousing a particular viewpoint. Oh, I think this about guns, or I think this about voting, or I think this about abortion, or they think it's that you're espousing a particular stance. And that's really not what politics of the humanities is about. It's about understanding power, and it's about understanding governance, and it's about understanding the individual and the individual's relationship to common life and to public life, and it's about those things. And so when I say that humanities is political, and when I say that this poem I'm going to offer is political, it's because the political is personal. Because what happens in the news happens to people, it happens to the human person. And sometimes we think that that literature and poetry are these nice things that we can use to make ourselves feel better or feel inspired in the privacy of our lives. And that's very true. But at the same time, when we have something that happens in the news and something that happens close to us or far from us that affects us deeply on a national level, that is that's also connected to the humanities and connected to the importance of poetry as witness and literature as witness. And so it's not about, what do I think about guns? It's what is my response to this violent act? What is our human response to violence? What do we say? What do we do? And these are all just very muddled, challenging questions. But poetry, particularly in these times, you know, where something like this erupts. Poetry is both a witness, it speaks the larger truth to what is occurring, and goes beyond, like, you know, the individual issue at hand, but to like the human heart of like what's happening. But it also provides a balm, and that balm sometimes is painful because it's revealing things about our fears and our biases and our challenges and our tensions in ways that like we don't really want to face, but we need to face them. And sometimes it's empowering, and sometimes it's hopeful, and sometimes it's all of those. And I really, you know, I was thinking about this poem this morning because, you know, here I am planning to go to the Shakespeare Festival tonight, super excited, and also really, really scared. Really, really scared to be out in this public place, you know, after 2 mass shootings in this country, watching Julius Caesar. I'm scared. And I'm scared because my son just turned 6 years old. And how do I live with him in this world? How do I not just protect him, but how do I live with him? How do I shape him to live in this place? Where, you know, the day after his 6th birthday, another little boy turning 6 died at a food festival from another mass shooter. How do we live with this? And what do we hold on to? And how do the humanities reveal that for us? Maggie Smith's poem, I think, is something that I'm holding on to today. And it's something that I'm holding on to as I figure this out as a mother and as a writer and as an educator and as a citizen and as, you know, a person. And, you know, we all are wrestling with those things. And so I wanted to offer this poem to you as we sift through this news and as we await more and as we try to figure it out. Again, the humanities are political because they deal with the human person and with the situations in which we live. And they are not an escape, and they are not polemic. They're not instructing us on like, this is how you have to answer this issue, but they lift up what is in the heart. And they do that in a way that's both systemic and individual. And this poem, for me today, is hitting all those things. So I just wanted to read this to you. This is Good Bones by Maggie Smith. Life is short, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep from my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible. And for every kind stranger, there is one who would break you, though I keep this from my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking you through a real shithole chirps on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful. And so that's not just, you know, the onus put on my son and on, you know, children, but on us to make this place beautiful. I hope this poem stays with you today. And I hope that, I mean, Maggie Smith is a beautiful poet, beautiful contemporary poet. I've loved all her work. So please seek her out. But I hope that this stays with you. And I hope that as we continue to piece out what it means to engage with the humanities in everyday life, that we don't shy away from what is national and what is political, because these things are personal. And that's just the truth.